Yo, how's it going, my man?
Awesome.
So, I am here because you threw out this call on your Insta and Twitter. I think you were inviting people to slide into your DMs
Right.
so you can like guide them into understanding the use of AI
Yes.
as a personal assistant, as a cheerleader, as a buddy in your creative endeavors, pursuits, which could
Personal,
be
yeah, it can be anything. Yeah.
right personal, technical, business, including even in terms of like most people when they think of AI today, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Maybe just search engine, it'll help me search better.
Yes.
To it might like I personally like to use AI as like a sounding buddy, right? Like
Right.
I throw out a thought, I'm like, okay, so what do you think on this? Like which direction would you take this, or if I were to move in this direction, what do you think? So I like to use it as a maybe as a sparring partner, as a fun playmate,
Right.
because I feel like right now I have this luxury of conversing with you. What if I didn't have this luxury of conversing with
And you
you?
just needed someone to like sound things off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right then
Absolutely.
and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, I think when you threw out that call, I was super stoked. And I have a bunch of things I personally like to do. I like to write,
hmm
I like to make videos,
hmm
I like to sketch and doodle. I like to run in person events where people can do all of these things. And I love
In a
to
in a community.
in a community,
Right.
right? So, how might I use AI for all of this? Like, that's this I'm throwing a wide net. But coming back to like why we're doing this in front of the camera together is I just feel like a lot of people have a sense of fear of AI. Am I right? Or is it just
And ignorance. I think, yeah, a lot of people are sleeping on it. It's like they maybe tried it a year ago or just when ChatGPT came up and they've not used it since. So they don't know how good the models have become. And they don't know how to use it as well, right? Like I've had a couple of friends who have tried ChatGPT and then they don't know you can upload screenshots, right? So very basic things like that. Like if you're kind of not aware or not even tried, it's like you're missing out on a lot of things that it is capable of doing. Especially now that the models have gotten really good, I think we should all be just using it instead of Google almost. Like I use it almost instead of Google. Instead of, spending 5 minutes searching for an answer, I'm like, I'll just ask ChatGPT, right? Or any Claude. All these models are very similar in terms of um, getting you to where you want to go. I think that's very powerful. And I use it exactly how you say it as well, right? As a sparring partner, it's like, oh, I had this thought. Let me see what ChatGPT thinks.
yeah,
Like, it's like on demand buddy, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well.
Man, I love that buddy concept, right? Like that's one of my linchpins of my whole play paradigm is like it's really important to find a buddy
hmm
in any game that we play, right? Like it's easy to play a game by myself. It's very challenging to play a game with others. And I feel like the sweet spot, when I say with others, I'm referring essentially like broadly defined community,
hmm
right? Like a whole bunch of people playing together around a common game or a common purpose, etc.
Right.
I feel like this space between a single player mode and a multiplayer mode is a dual player mode, which is the buddy,
Yes.
right? And
Absolutely.
right now, I feel like I'm comfortable jamming with you, conversing with you, and I feel like we are having a good interactive experience. And now, when we share this out with the rest of the world, we are inviting others to come in and join in that
Join. Yeah,
experience,
yeah.
right? If I were to do this single player video, it may be fun, but not so much. If you were to just screen record what you do on a regular basis and share it out there, it might have been fun, but maybe not as much. I feel like
Right.
this is like a sweet spot. And if I were to just start with these three questions, right? It's like why, how, and when.
hmm
Like, why do I want to use AI? Why would you want to use
Good question. Why I use AI is because one, it's so good at what it can do. I want to use AI. What I'm trying to do now is see how far I can push it. Like, how is this model that's from a purely technical perspective? How is this black box that's trained? to just predict the next word based on some context has this property of intelligence. And is it really intelligence, right? Or is it just like a stochastic parrot that just, has learned all these kind of phrases and it just repeats it? No, there is like very intelligent behavior that has emerged and it displays. I'm like, can it really do a lot of things that I can do, right? Any question that comes that I might ask an opinion or want to know, like a sounding board, want to know someone else's opinion, explore my thought process, explore something that's kind of blocking me, right? It's so much easier to untangle those knots by just having a sounding board. And I think that's very powerful. And for me, it's these things, right? It makes my thinking a lot clearer. And it also, from a technical perspective, I want to see how far I can push it.
Awesome. So in a way, it's like it invites this sort of a Socratic dialogue, a
Yes.
dialectic
That's a great way
experience
to
as
put
well,
it. Yep.
right? Like it's almost like, hey, so what do you think I could do? Like even we could be asking AI this, like, two of us want to make a video around the use of AI.
Right.
Why do you think we should do it? Why do you think we shouldn't do it? And how do you think we could go about it? And, what's the ideal way to reach out to people? What do you think would be a nicer way to get started with this?
Mhm.
Or do you think we should just jump in and just hit the floor running like we're doing right now? I think there's a lot of room for, it depends on which part of the creative struggle you're coming in from.
Mhm.
Like I personally am very comfortable with just winging it, jumping in, just saying, forget it, we'll figure out how deep the water is once I've
Jumped
dived
in.
in,
Yeah.
right? But there are a lot of people who might want the other, want to be,
Preparation.
yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So maybe start with talking points. Like I could ask AI right now, do you want to run that through AI and ask it, like if two of us want to jam around the use of AI in a common man's daily life, prompt engineering. Why do we call it prompt engineering?
There's no engineering involved. It's just a way to make us feel like we're doing something.
Right?
I don't know, fancy. I don't know.
I like the word prompt imagineering.
Imagineers.
Right? Imagineers. How pedantic is it around spelling mistakes and like
It's
syntax
not.
errors?
It's very lenient.
Oh, nice.
It really gets what you're trying to get at.
Mhm.
Like, I don't worry too much about misspelling. Like, imagine Google, like, few years ago, is like, oh, the spelling is wrong. Okay, correct the spelling. This just understands, I guess.
Beautiful.
So it already, like, I use ChatGPT quite extensively. So it also knows things like me wanting to give a talk on AGI for my pint size thing.
Right.
So it's saying, oh, it's a great idea and probably fits in with your interests as well. So why AI? So let's see. It says, why is AI inevitable exponential growth of computational power? I think it's like the Ray Kurzweil's exponential theory. There are economic and military incentives, which is, again, I think there's this whole conversation right now on Twitter saying India needs like a AI strategy. I guess it comes from the perspective of having military incentives. Again, augmenting human intelligence, I guess, like we were saying, sounding board, a buddy. Um, a lot of people think of it as having a second brain. That's another way to look at it. It remembers all the things you like. It has a model of you. Like it'll get really better at modeling what you like, what kind of personality you are, your preferences, just like how your TikTok algorithm works, right? It knows what you like.
Hmm.
Similarly, in a lot of different ways, you can see this technology being able to model you as a person. And like you mentioned also, like this AI assistant that's always available, understands you. It has infinite patience, infinite knowledge, uh, infinite time. So it's like it's a great way to look at it. Look at that as well. Why does AI matter for society? Let's see what it comes up with. Potential for solving humanity's grand challenges: climate change, medicine, education. That's a big one, right? Climate change. Uh, I think we're in a very precarious situation where we can't find a solution in time. Possibly AI could solve that. Um, why does it matter? So yeah, it says, yeah, let's look at displacement of jobs, right? That's, I think, another important question that we kind of need to dwell into as well. It's like with the upcoming knowledge automation, with the agents, infrastructure, and everything that's being built, a lot of knowledge work is going to be automated. So it's like now is like the perfect time to start that conversation of, what will happen to society when a lot of these jobs, which I guess were the more technical, more that required more knowledge, education. What you work so hard to build all those skills, and now a lot of those skills probably might not be as useful.
Yeah.
And again, the ethical and existential risks. I think a lot of the, I guess, a lot of the researchers are very concerned about existential risk as well. Like each one has a different PDOM, as they call it. Um, some of them, like Jan LeCun, have like single-digit percentage of us some catastrophic event happening and causing the human race to be extinct. There are some people who have 95 plus, uh,
Wow.
who are like kind of been thinking about these topics for a long time. So their like PDOM is very high. They're like ringing the bells right now. It's like when you look at models like O3, which are much better than PhD level knowledge, people with PhD level knowledge at very, very diverse areas. It's like, what do we do with that kind of technology, right? What's the difference between AI and AGI, I guess? So we can talk about that. Um, why do people fear AI? Sure. Yeah, there's potential for deepfakes, misinformation. If AI can get really good at persuading people, like I mentioned, right? If it gets really good at modeling you, then it can really sell you things, right?
Yeah.
It can lead you into paths that uh, you don't want to go, but someone who's motivated to make you go probably can use these tools to do that.
It's like the social engineering part of hacking,
Right,
right?
right. And imagine social engineering with a model that knows so much about you personally, right? So I did this very. Right now I'm like I said, I was trying to push the models to see how much it can do. So I asked it things like, based on everything you know about me, what do you think my IQ is? What do you think my MBTI type is? What do you think my Keegan adult development level is? It got everything spot on,
Ooh.
just based on I don't even like I've been only using it for a few months extensively, and it knows exactly my intellectual and psychological profile. Like it even got a nuance. Like I'm an INFJ, but about 10 years ago I was an INTP. It even got that nuance. It said you have tendencies towards INTP, and like based on just the questions I've asked it, right? I think that's like now if you're not scared now, you should be.
Yeah, and I also think it's when you say that, it's probably far more accurate to bet on this than a psychometric testing that you probably do once,
Yeah,
right? In many cases, even if you're doing a test on a regular basis, you're still doing it only on a one-off period in time and
yeah,
space.
right, right, right.
Whereas this is a
A progression,
continuous,
yeah.
yeah, is
The
constantly
patterns
feeding
are
it.
there, right?
Yeah,
Like that's what we need to understand. Like our patterns are so indicative in the kind of questions we ask it, or the
yeah,
kind of information we're looking at,
yeah,
kind of conversations we have with AI, that
yeah,
it's already learned
yeah,
this about you.
yeah.
Like how does it pick up on these nuances, right? Um, uh, And even with the psychometric test, one day you're feeling tired, and when you're taking it, you probably don't answer it very well. Those are off. These patterns over a long period of time, they don't lie, right?
Exactly. So I want to talk about, think about it from these two paradigms, right? We have an institutional acceptance of AI
Mhm.
across the social spectrum,
Right.
across everything that we are doing, everything that is happening around us. And the other aspect of from an individual perspective, right? How might I leverage AI? How might the world leverage AI? So let's leave the world part of it aside, because that's something that's an ongoing debate, and that's what everyone's trying to figure out.
Right.
Whether it's the people building the whole AI, frontier, pushing the edge constantly, whether it's governments trying to play catch up and trying to figure out how can we actually use this, versus institutions trying to figure it out. What about us as individuals? Like, that's where I want to be. Like, if I'm Iron Man, I have Jarvis. If I'm Batman, I have, like, my butler.
Mhm.
Like, how do I figure out how I want to leverage AI in my personal life? And you said you've been using it extensively over the last few months.
Mhm.
Like, how might everyone around us start using it extensively in a way that benefits them, right? Because there's always going to be the institutional aspect of how my
Right.
data is being used by others.
Right.
I want to focus on how I can use my data better for myself,
Right. Right.
right? Like, that's the lens I would love to look at it from, because
Mhm.
I find it extremely agentic. Like, it makes me feel like good, like it makes me feel strong, empowered, powerful. Like, yeah, bro, I got this. I got this tool. I'm going to use it to, like, think of it as fire, right? Like, I'm going to use it to keep myself warm. I'm going to use it to keep me light. I'm going to use it to keep me safe from animals in the wild. So, same way, if I got this powerful tool, AI, which I look at it as like fire, because fire can harm you, fire can help you, fire can heal you, fire can hurt you, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, how can I use AI in a way that helps me rather than harms me? How can I use it in a way that, you know, supports me
Right.
rather than trips me up?
Yep. Yep. No, that's an important thing, right? Like if you're building a second brain for yourself, how do I use it? How do I build that in the first place? I think what I've started doing is, instead of using Google for all my questions, I just use AI for that. The other thing is also, you think of, like, a lot of people do these stream of consciousness journaling.
Hmm.
Like they might use Twitter for it, they might use some social media for it, or use a friend for it. I've just started using AI for that, and it's very fascinating to see the kind of conversation you'll have that ensues from that train of thought. And like, okay, you can explore your inner workings using AI in the moment whenever you need it. And I think that's powerful, right? Just that you have this person, or I don't want to anthropomorphize an AI, but this entity at your bidding all the time. So you don't have to wait to have a buddy to have that conversation. You have a buddy in AI, right?
That's
Um,
awesome, dude. I love, because when you mentioned this, like, why not give it an entity, right? Like, why not? Because as a child,
mhm.
I had a zillion imaginary friends, right? It's
Right.
only growing up that all these imaginary friends atrophied, and then I had to get like real friends. Like, I get it, it's cool to have real friends, but
Right.
how is it uncool to have imaginary friends, right? Like, at some point, it started becoming uncool to have imaginary friends. It started becoming uncool to be talking to yourself, whether
Right.
aloud or in your own
In
head,
right.
right? And like, why? Like, I would love to be like, hey, this is like, I would love to have multiple personas within my AI, buddy. Like,
Mhm.
hey, so I have a group of friends, I have a best friend, and I have a whole bunch of friends.
Right.
Like, what if I could create a AI crew, a gang of buddies, right? And like,
With different
imagine, yeah, I
personas,
would love
right?
to have a group chat with all my AI buddies, dude, right? And like,
Imagine, yeah, different perspectives, just like you
right,
would in a group chat, right? Yeah,
yeah,
I think that would be a very cool thing to
right.
build or use, right?
Imagine building that right now.
Hey, Claude, I think there's some interesting people doing these kind of experiments, right? Like letting Claude and Opus,
Yeah,
they all talk to each other.
yeah,
It's like fascinating to see those conversations.
yeah. Like I would love to have.
But if you include a human, what happens, right?
There you go. Yeah, imagine that. So I have this already existing crew of AI buddies,
Mhm.
and then I invite my real life buddies into that group chat.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, that would be. I would love to see that dynamic, right? Like we're talking, and then Claude interferes and
Yeah,
says, "What are you guys doing?
yeah.
What are you guys talking about?"
And are we not, in a way, I am now using real people in my life to come in and help me train my AI models with an external perspective of what I'm thinking or what I'm doing in my life. Like, because if I'm chatting with an AI buddy,
Mhm.
it's just me, my perspective, my prompts, my information, my data that I'm pushing in and the AI is being trained on,
Right.
right? What if now you enter that, Tarun's entered the chat, right? Now Tarun says, hey, ready,
And
I remember.
Tarun's model also enters the chat.
Yeah, exactly, dude. This is so freaking trippy. So the whole individual paradigm, like how do we focus on how might I leverage AI for even to make it, like how as in like personal, professional, and social. Like I would love to look at it from three paradigms.
Mhm.
Like how can I use AI to help me in my personal life, whether it's just managing my time and calendar, managing my energy levels, managing my daily tasks, mundane stuff, managing my routine, managing my dreams and aspirations, like a review, right? A lot of
Right.
people look at productivity as a very difficult task because we haven't been trained from childhood to do it unless there was a threat or treat involved, right? If you had to prepare for an exam, because if you didn't pass that exam, you would be ostracized, you would be left behind, you would be laughed at, you would be mocked, you wouldn't be leveling up with the rest of it.
Right.
If you did well in the exam, you'd get a prize, you'd do really well, people would put you up on a pedestal, etc. So there's always this threat or treat paradigm to push you towards doing something to take care of yourself and improve yourself and to grow and to get better at something.
Right.
What if AI can help me in that whole personal thing, saying, hey, how was your day today? What's up? And, if I can just do it over audio without having to sit and do my daily review, right? Just a casual conversation with AI helping me figure out how was my day, what happened, what went right, what went wrong. All right, that's okay. Now let's figure out what we can do for tomorrow, right? Before we hit the sack, is there anything you'd like to get started with as soon as you wake up tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right. So it helps me plan for the next day.
Right.
All in a casual conversational space without me feeling like bro. Like
Got it.
I have to do this. This is like this, who will carry the logs sort of a thing. Right? Like, okay, I get it. That sort of an energy is cool once in a while, but it's unsustainable over a long paradigm.
True.
The conversational buddy aspect of doing things is there.
Yeah.
So that's a personal thing. The personal thing, do you see any examples where we might easily implement this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been using it a lot for my personal things as well. Like right now, professionally, I'm not working, but I'm technically still doing stuff in the uh, computer science software space for myself to build things. So I have asked it for its opinion on ideas, right? Going into the professional side, I guess, a little bit, but it ties into the personal side because I asked it based on everything uh, what do you think about me building this, right? So it gives me reasons why it thinks it's this particular idea that I'm working on is a good fit for me. So it knows I'm doing all this pint-sized thing. It knows I'm building this app. It knows I'm doing some writing. I've fed it my writing as well. Uh, and also, I was exploring things on the psychological level. What are my motivations, right? Why do you think certain things explain this pattern, right? So, from a therapeutic sense as well, it gives you a lot of clarity. You can peel the layers and get to the root cause or root fear or root drive, root motivation, right? It does a really good job. It's only about prompting it the right way, uh, uh, crafting the prompt like prompt engineering, right? Uh, Once you craft that prompt and it has enough of a model of what things you're interested in, what drives you, it peels the layers like that. I think compared to, I don't know how well therapy actually works because I've not really experienced it. As most people say, it probably takes a few years for them to like peel the layers, and it's also like look at therapy as well, right? 1 hour and it's done, and you have to wait for a week or a month or whatever it is. You kind of lost in that. You're making progress, and then time's up, right? Now there's no time up here. You can continue the conversation, dig deeper, get to whatever answers you're looking for, whatever clarity you're looking for. From a personal mental health, personal side of things, I think it can be very, very, very useful. The only problem is how much data you want to give these models, right? Because I think people are a little scared to, from a privacy perspective and all that. But also, the flip side of it is, I feel a lot more comfortable sharing whatever I want to share with Claude or ChatGPT. Which, on the flip side, I might hesitate to tell another human, right? Uh, I feel in looking at it from that lens as well is important because it feels like you will not hesitate to Google whatever the fuck you want, right? But if you want to ask your friend some thoughts that you have, you always have that social hesitation, which you might not have with a AI model.
So I'm going to put this marker in the video saying that, at this point, maybe we can draw out a pipeline or a path for people to follow, those who are more trusting of these closed source models. Here's the path they can take. You can just download these apps, start using them. Here's how you can build out a user profile or AI profile that would help you, that would understand you better, and over time can compound your conversations and results.
Right.
And on the other hand, you have this other path where people can take a more uh, protected approach, conservative approach, where they're using open source models, locally hosted models, all hosted on their own site, so the data isn't going anywhere. But you obviously don't have access to the latest and greatest. Right. So maybe we could like put that in the chat or leave it in the comment section.
Sure.
Something for people to just, because you get to make the choice at the end of the day, right? Like that's the best part of all of
You have to choose what's right for you. Yeah.
And okay, so cool. That's a lot on the personal side of things. What about the professional side, especially when there's a lot of fear around people thinking, oh my God, AI is going to take all our jobs away?
Right. There are two ways to look at it, right? I think one, like I'm in the software industry, I build software. So right now, making software has become so fluid, right? You continue to remain in flow state for a long time. And most people know what that flow state feels like when you're building software. Is like you're in this zone, you're just building. And at the end of an 8 hour session, you're like, wow, I built a lot. But if you're not in the flow state, you can be stuck for hours just trying to fix some stupid bug, which might have been some typo somewhere. But you might spend hours doing it and you're like frustrated. But imagine being in like a flow state. These little nuisances don't affect those flow states. And I think that's a beautiful thing, right? You can look at that from the short term perspective where these tools are getting really good and you continue to do what you really love doing. Um, there are other areas, other domains, maybe copywriting. Instead of starting from a blank page, you have some framework to work with. You're stuck somewhere. Okay, you're in this predicament where you can't find that exact word, right? Fine. Ask ChatGPT, okay, I'm thinking of this word. I can't remember. It's in the tip of my tongue. Just give me that answer, right? It can help with those things. Uh, uh,
Even
Ideas
from a
for
syntax perspective, especially.
yeah. I think from a professional perspective, you should be trying to exploit these tools as much as possible right now to figure out what works for you, how it works, how these models, where these models will work, where it might not work, where you still have the edge, right? You will still have the edge. Uh, you should be using them extensively to figure out what it can and can't do. Because if you want to stay competitive If you want to be successful in your professional field, these tools are coming. These tools will automate a lot of jobs, technically. But you'll still, people who use these tools will still have the edge.
Yeah.
You can be so much more productive. You can be so much more creative. You can be so much more technical and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So I think professionally, if you're not using it, get started.
Man, I love this. The way I'm looking at it, I think there's these two perspectives to look at it. I can use it. I can think of it as me exploring AI.
Mhm.
I can think of it as me exploiting AI, right? Like both of them are like powerful perspectives, lenses to look at it from.
Right.
One might just be a level of curiosity, others extremely competitive and productivity oriented. And I'm like, oh, I need to get this done. We need to solve this. You need to help me, right? I'm being very clear, very directional.
Yeah.
Whereas the other is just like, I have
Let's
no
play
idea
around.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
Let's play around. Let's fuck
Right.
around and find out sort of
Right.
a space.
Right.
And I love this whole thing about the professional aspect of it. Like, think about it from my perspective as a motorcyclist, right? I just saw this analogy in my head the moment you said that, because I am like the old school classic motorcyclist would think of ABS, traction control, cornering ABS, all these electronic aids, wheelie control, all of this as, man, I just want the old school stuff.
Right.
Just give me the throttle and clutch and I'll figure it out on my own. That's
You
awesome.
control it.
Exactly, right? But at the same time, every motorcycle coming out today has all of these bells and whistles, and they're no longer bells and whistles.
Default.
It's default,
Right.
and you're actually paying more to get
Rid of it?
rid of them.
Wow.
Since these come activated by default, you have to go out of your way to go through the menu and turn them off. And the more you pay, the more level of control you have over how intrusive these technologies
Right.
are in your experience of the journey. Right? Now, people might say it takes away the reality, the rawness, the feel of that being on the edge, the danger of riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's lowered the flow for so many people to do things which they otherwise would not dare to do.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like that's probably where we're going to go with AI as well.
100%. Yeah. Like imagine like a solo entrepreneur who has no clue how to do branding or how to do marketing or SEO or whatever it is. Now he has a tool for $20 a month who can be an expert in all of these, right? And he has this idea. Bring ideas to fruition, to the real world, will be accelerated very, very soon, right? Building an app might have taken 3 months for a team of few people. Now you can probably, one person can do it in 3 weeks. Get it out there, iterate faster, get feedback. That feedback loop, again, speaking of feedback loops, again, AI is like that feedback loop is so instantaneous, right? You get feedback on your ideas, thoughts, feelings, whatever it is, so instantly. You don't have to wait. And for it to kind of disappear from your frame of reference, frame of thought, I think, yeah, professionally, I think it would be exactly like you said. Like, people might want to pay for a more bespoke experience, saying, yeah, I want a very raw, human output. But eventually, I think those will be indistinguishable from what people do using AI. It's like using, let's say, the calculator and you writing, multiplying numbers by hand. I don't think it'll matter too much.
Yeah. That connects me to, the whole social element as well, because when you said about holding a frame of reference, I think human beings are very fickle, especially in the social realm, for holding a frame of reference. For example, my frame of reference with this particular line of conversation that we're on, you may not remember this 3 weeks from now. This exact frame of reference.
Right.
Because your life has changed tremendously in those next 3 weeks. My life has changed. When we meet again the next time after these 3 weeks, for us to come back to this particular frame of reference, this frame of thought, this line of thinking that we're on, this train of thinking that we're on, would be very challenging, because we're like, so many things have changed, for us to come back to this very time and space that we're having this conversation in would be very challenging. would probably impossible if not, So, but with AI, I can say, lock this in and say this frame of reference. We're going to get back this. Remind me in 3 weeks' time to continue this conversation. Right. So I get back to the rest of the things that I want to do, rest of the people I want to meet, rest of the projects I want to play with. But I know in 3 weeks' time, it's going to remind me. So it acts like a very secretarial way of doing
That's
things.
a great way of looking at it, right? It's your personal secretary, assistant, whatever. Like imagine your device that you're wearing is recording all of this, and it's figured out, what main points it needs to capture, or you can prompt it and say, "Hey, I want you to remember this and remind me in 3 weeks." Or in 3 weeks when we meet, you're on your way on your bike. I'm on my way in an auto or a cab, and I can just say, "Hey, brief me, remind me of all the things that we spoke about." And before we meet, we're already in that zone, right? We've already caught up. We spoke about all this, and you kind of, you said you would follow up on this. You would have continue this conversation. Yours where you can start. Just a brief, right? Like your daily brief that your calendar might give you, or this is what your day looks like. You can have like a pre-social meetup brief of where you're at. It could also your my model can talk to your model and say, hey, these guy Reddy is in this state of mind or has been thinking about this. Maybe you can talk about this. Right? There are great ways to use personal AIs, not just as human to your assistant collaboration, but imagine your assistant to your assistant collaboration as well.
I think this is also super useful because if you look at it, the whole IRL URL divide in terms of social skills has been that the more URL we are becoming, the more our social skills are atrophying, right? Most people are incapable of talking to each other in person. We've forgotten a lot of physical
The art of conversation,
skills.
Right? Yeah.
Right? Even how to approach a person, whether in conversation, even just sharing the same spatial space. Because people might have become uncomfortable with sitting next to each other, facing each other, sitting at a table together.
All we do is like look at our phones, right? Like,
exactly.
Where's that, human to human, let the devices disappear. What if we live in a world where the devices disappear and it's back to us being human? I mean, a lot of people talk about this dystopian view of AI, we'll lose what it means to be human. I have a completely optimistic view, right? I think it'll make us be human a lot better, where we're not glued to our screens, where we're a lot more social. We can look at each other in the eye and have a conversation. And AI should aid us in us being more human, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. So I'm very bullish on this idea because the way I see it is, if we're going to allow it to enter every aspect of our lives, in all likelihood, things are going to get better. And it also allows us to become more choice oriented in terms of what we're sharing with whom, when, where, and why. Right. I am sharing this information with my personal AI, and I get to choose whether my personal AI decides to share that with your personal AI, right? And then that also allows me to understand how I might share my deepest thoughts and interactions, conversations with you in a way that helps us both grow, right? Because I want us to grow in every way possible, whether it's personal, whether it's professional. Imagine you're my boss and I'm working for you, and if I may interact with you in a way that helps you understand what exactly I'm missing out on, it would make both our jobs easier.
Right.
It would make both of us more productive. It would make our combined purpose, right, effortless. And I feel like it, because the whole idea of playing social is about playing together.
Right.
And if AI can help us play together better than in our individual silos, I feel like that would make this whole world feel so much more playful, more engaging, more
understood.
involving.
You see more. You are more understood. You feel more seen. Feel more heard. Empathy increases. I mean, the positive effects are like there, right? Like, why are people not excited about that? Like, just how you said it, right? Like, I have my personal AI. I want it to I want, like, with your manager example, you, like, some people radical kind of works, right? Brutally honest, okay, I'll fix this plan. Some people might need you to be more empathetic and coaching, right? You can just tell your AI, say, hey, I want you to communicate to Reddy and say blah blah blah, but you communicate to his AI, figure out the right way to do it, and your AI speaks to you in the language you feel most comfortable in. So I think these language games are like so fascinating, right? If everything comes down to your model of the world, your usage of language, my model of the world, my usage, my understanding of the words and tone or whatever it is, and that translation between your world, your language model, my world, and my language model. So my world model and my language model together with your world model and your language model. That kind of translation, that subtlety, I think, will make us all communicate better, be more empathetic, live in a more playful world. Um, I think that's a great way to, great world to live in.
Yeah. Because I think even if I were to just right now, this could be enabled. Let's say I hop on Twitter to put out a angry rant on something. Like before I hit enter, before I put it out into the world, what if the AI, Grok itself says, "Hey, seems like you're trying to put this out to the world. Like you might want to reconsider,
rephrase
rethink
it,
it,
maybe.
rephrase it.
Yeah.
You might want even put a pause on it and think it over for a while and then put it out there."
Right.
Right. And here's what I suggest, because I know you want to get this out and I understand what your audiences who's following you is looking for. So maybe you might want to consider taking this path because it's more effective, it reaches out better, it'll have a better, engagement rate and better acceptance.
You can still say the same things you wanted to say, but say it in a different way, right? Yes, absolutely.
Right. So I think it would definitely make the world a better place because there's a lot of doom around AI. And I think like it's going to take us individuals using AI. We need to put out more examples of people using AI
To better their life. Yes, absolutely.
and the lives of those around them. Like I personally, like this is something I want to use, right? How might I make the lives of people I interact with better? Right? How could I make the people, let's say followers, let's say, fans, let's say just friends, let's say family,
Right.
regardless of how I'm viewing them or what our exact relationship is, these are people I care about. How much, how little is not so important right now, but these are people I care about. These are people who do care about me. So, how do I bridge this gap such that we start building a stronger, deeper, more playful, more powerful, more engaging way of interacting?
Right.
Right. And for this, how do I need to set up my personal AI models? How do I need to leverage these tools? If X itself doesn't have this baked in yet, how do I bake it into my workflow, my pipeline in such a way that every time I'm doing something that's interacting with the world around me, whether it's just like being in my family group chat, whether it's just hanging with my friends, whether it's actually socially engaging with the world, how can I leverage AI right now to make me a better social player out there?
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to definitely explore that more. I think we're still in the early stages of people using it in a social context or in a personal context as well. I think there are a lot of people experimenting with spirituality, psychotherapy using AI. So that movement is going. But in the social context, I definitely think there's a lot of scope in the social context to use AI to be better friend, mentor, boss, whatever it is, right? It can help you do better. Like, just for example, right? I have a friend who has like, let's say he has 50 friends that he wants to keep in touch with. And he has like an Excel sheet indicating, okay, these are the people I care about. These are things they're going through, their whatever life journey. These are things I want to follow up on and when to follow up. We all have limited time, but we have a lot of people we care about, right? Let's say we have an AI system that basically replaces this Excel sheet and says, based on your chat, based on your phone conversations. Your device records everything. It knows, hey, okay, Reddy fell sick. He broke his leg 2 weeks ago. He's still recovering. Just proactively, an AI can just remind me, saying, why didn't you check up on him, right? You had this conversation and he was going through a knee surgery or whatever. Just check up on him. Like, in the pace at which life goes and work commitments, family commitments, you just forget it. And it's, you care. Like, you just need that little nudge saying, why don't you do this, right? I think that's a great way to build a socially beneficial AI model, AI assistant. Right? Yeah.
I was just thinking back to a group chat idea, right? Where I have like a bunch of AI personas in a group chat with me. So when I'm having these conversations, I can actually feel it. I was like, hey, you know what? Reddy broke his leg, right? And then we just have a conversation around. I need not even give it input saying that, remind me to say,
Right.
check in on him.
You don't, yeah.
I don't need to.
It needs to be a subtle nudge.
It's
right?
not explicit, say this, remind me, because that works in
that
the
comes a
professional
calendar.
world.
Yeah, the calendar is already there
Yes.
for that. You don't need that. Yeah.
And the professional side of things, that works.
Right.
Very explicit, very instructional, very directional. But in the social side of things, in the personal side of things, I need a more softer approach to AI playing a role in my life. Like you said, a gentle nudge, a quick, I don't want a quick reminder. I want a gentle reminder.
Right.
And that...
It needs to basically go into the flow of how you operate, right?
In the moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I feel it's so powerful because if it's getting all of this information, it knows exactly how I am today.
Right.
And I was thinking about adding biomarkers to this. What if it knows my glucose levels? What if it knows my blood pressure? What if it knows my heart rate right now?
Right.
So it can easily figure out, hey, you seem to be operating at a, this thing. Yeah, maybe you're anxious, or is it just that did you just run? What just happened?
Right.
Chased by an animal? What just happened? Like, I feel like there's so much of these. It's like, rather than thinking about how do I curtail what information I'm giving AI, I would also like to explore this path of how much more information can I give?
And what can it do to help my life get better, right?
Exactly.
Like, imagine, I'm a smoker. There are certain triggers for smokers to smoke, right? Okay, you're anxious. Okay, I want to smoke. Or you want to take a break. You want to smoke. So let's say your AI model already knows your triggers, and it has all these device data as well. So it's like, okay, I am sensing a little bit of anxiety. I think you might reach for a cigarette. Let's, nudge him to do something else. Right? Imagine a world like that. Just one of the examples of how something like this can be used. That's a great way, to frame, okay, what if I give it all my data? What can it do? That's a great world. I mean, if it is nudging you in the direction you want, such a great world to live in, right?
This also makes me think, this is where my agency comes in, right? It's like just unlocking the doors of all my data is again me losing agency. I want to understand why I'm giving it access. All right, I am going to give you all of this data. I want you to help me figure out this, right? That aspect of it, I still want to be in control of, not because I want to retain control or I don't want to lose control, but because me playing that meta role empowers me.
Right.
It makes me understand why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right.
So I'm going to give you access to my heart rate. I'm going to give you access to my personal journey. Right? I'm going to give you access to my relationship letters, which I've been writing to my love. Right? I need you to help me become a better lover. I need you to help me sort out my medical issues. I need you to help me become a better worker in the workplace so that I don't give my boss sleepless nights and I don't get anxious because I'm going to be afraid of losing my job. Right? I want to retain that level of control, agency over my life.
It's almost like meta control than just directly control.
Yeah. And it's not that white-knuckled control. I'm not going to give you control over my data, my information, my knowledge. It's more of I need to understand why you're doing this. I need you to understand why you're doing this. because I need you to give me direction to improve my life in this particular area. Right? And that essentially helps me stay in control without feeling like, I'm holding all this by a leash.
Right.
Or whether I am just like losing it and saying, do whatever. Right. Right. And this, I think, is super powerful because this is what we are missing today in the world of social media. We are throwing all our thoughts and ideas and, feelings out there. And we have no idea why we're doing it because it's just more like a knee-jerk reaction. Or I'm just feeling something, I'm just going to throw it out on Twitter. I just feel like this, I'm just going to put it out there. Right? Yes, but why? Yes, but to what end? Yes, but how long is this rant going to continue? Yes, but how do I build upon this rant and make it a more actionable outcome that benefits me and that improves the world in a more meaningful, compounding way over time, right? This is something I personally want. I want to be able to do this in everything that I do. Why am I dressing a certain way? Why am I meeting this person? Why am I talking about this? Why am I writing an essay about this? Like, I would love to be in control of this adventure of my life. And if AI is going to be this, it's like this buddy along me, right? It's like if I'm Robinson Crusoe, it's like my Man Friday. Like that's what I want AI to be.
Right.
Like you're there, you're helping me, you have more knowledge and information than me, but we're still in this journey together, and I'm still charting the course of our journey. Right? I don't want to lose that feeling that this is my adventure. I want to be the main freaking character.
Right. You just do the chores,
Right.
Make the floor clean.
Yeah. No, you can still be my buddy. Right? You're there. But you need to understand, why are we making the floor clean? I don't want you to just be a servant, right? I don't want you to just be a knave, a slave. I want you to feel like you're involved, but at the same time, get this straight, I am the main character.
And you have to have the best interest of me in mind, right? You have to be my best buddy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,